Okay guys, today I'm going to teach you how to make some fake blood. It is one of the most essential skill sets for a special effects artist to be able to have. There's lots of different recipes out there. Mine is loosely based on Dick Smith's recipe with some slight modifications. So let's look at what you need to get started. So let's talk about what you're going to need to make fake blood. The first thing we need to talk about is the base for the blood. There are lots of different bases that you can use. There'll be times when I'll choose a different base, but for the most part I generally use light corn syrup. There's lots of different kinds of corn syrup, generic brands, and K-Row. I am a K-Row man. You also are going to need food coloring to tint the blood, and also clear laundry detergent, something that has no fragrance or dyes in it. What we're looking for are the surfactants in the detergent that will keep the blood from beating up on your skin. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. We are going to need a container to mix in, a mixing utensil of some kind, and some measuring cups. I use a 1 cup or 2 cup measuring cup for the red food color because we're going to use the most of that. And then you can use measuring spoons, but I prefer a measuring cup even for doing the smaller measurements, which would be a couple teaspoons of the green and yellow. Optional are some gloves and a wet rag. Wet rag's nice just because it helps keep a controlled work area. The more controlled your work area is, the less likely you are to stain everything. So this blood recipe does not usually stain. The more water that you add to blood, the more likely it is to stain. But if you keep it as a nice thick corn syrup blood, it usually will not stain. So you can take the same recipe and use smaller amounts of everything, but I prefer to mix up larger amounts of blood because that allows you to have a wider range of error. So if you're off a little bit on one of the colors, it doesn't matter as much because you're mixing it up a gallon or 2 gallons at a time. So the recipe that I'm using here today is for 1 gallon of corn syrup. So the first thing we want to do is empty all the corn syrup containers into the bucket. It does not matter if you get 100% of the corn syrup out of each of these bottles because the blood is going to go right back into the bottle, and it will just mix right into the corn syrup that was left in the bottle. Just try to make sure that you leave the same amount of corn syrup in each one. Again, because we're mixing up such a large amount, if you're off a little bit with any one of these, it won't matter as much. A lot of times people have a hard time with the color of the blood. The reason for that, in my opinion, is that they don't use enough red, and they mix it in too small of a batch. So if they're off a little tiny bit by a couple of drops, the whole mixture will either turn brown or will look very transparent. And it's because they're usually just not using enough food coloring. So what I've put in here are 4 of these 1-quart containers of corn syrup. So basically we have a gallon of light corn syrup here. So to that we are going to add 1 cup of this red food coloring. I pour it into the measuring cup above the corn syrup. So if you spill some, it goes into the mixture. And that goes in. And we're only going to use this large cup for the red food coloring and for the detergent, so let's just go ahead and do the detergent right now too. And so we want a 1/2 cup of detergent. Now we can take this cup and set it off to the side here. Put the lids tightly on everything as we're done using it so that you don't knock it over. And let's do our yellow next. So yellow, we want 1.5 ounces of yellow. Here we go, 1.5 ounces of yellow. Right up to the line there. Alright. And 1.5 ounces of green. Set that cup off to the side. Put the lids tightly back on these containers. There we go. And because of the detergent, you don't want to agitate this blood in a huge way. You just want to slowly mix it up so that you don't get tons of bubbles. That's one of the negative side effects of using. Okay, and so what we've got here then is a very dark, rich blood. What I'm interested in is seeing a blood that, when it's on the tabletop or in a puddle on the ground, it appears to be black, but when you smear it out, it goes red. And on your skin, the same deal. So the trickles of blood are very dark, but when it gets smeared out, it turns red. And the clear laundry detergent has kept this from beating up on your skin. Without that detergent, you would suddenly all these little negative spaces would appear, and the fluid would beat up on your skin. So you can get some very nice splatter patterns. Anyway, so there we have it. And in regards to it staining your skin, use a nice hot wet rag. It'll wipe right off. If you keep cleaning it off and putting it on and cleaning it off and putting it back on, and your skin gets wetter and wetter and the corn syrup gets wetter and wetter, it will start to stain your skin. So usually the person who's handling all the blood, the special effects artist on set, will end up pink, but usually nobody else will. Okay, well, I guess that's it. So have fun making blood, and if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below and I'll do my best to answer them. And until next time, see ya!